Hello everyone. In this lecture we are going to study about React.js. Before we get started, you need to know HTML, CSS and JavaScript. We will start installation of the things required for React.
Now for the setup of the environment, we will be looking at our node versions first. So for that we'll write node-v, and my current version is 19.4.0. You need to have 16 plus version of node to do React,
Hi everyone. We are going to
and
learn
it could be
React today.
different.
In this
It's
lecture, you
fine
need
if
to know
your version is different,
JavaScript, CSS and
and
HTML before we get
you have
started.
to have more than
So
16
keeping that in mind,
versions.
we will get
If you
with the
don't, then go
installation
to this
of the
website
things which
called
are needed.
nodejs.org. I will be pasting this link in the description. And for the editor, we will be using Visual Studio Code. I'll also provide the link for Visual Studio Code. We'll start with some basics. So before we get started, once you have installed Visual Studio, we will open Visual Studio like this, and we'll go to extensions, and I want you guys to install Prettier. So Prettier is gonna help us format our code, and that's something which I use a lot. So if you go to search for this, and if you have Prettier code formatter, and you have to install it, mine is already installed, that's why I see uninstall and disable button. Once you've done that, I want you to go to files, and in preferences go to settings, and search for here format on save, and check this. So whenever we do a save, our code will be automatically formatted by Prettier. This is going to be a huge help in terms of when you want to see your code. Once we have done that, now we are ready to write our first React code. I'll close all of this. There are two ways to write React code. The first one is create React app. The second one is Vite. So a lot of people use both. You can use any one, but we'll be using Vite. We go to terminal, click on new terminal, and it will open up a pop-up like this on the bottom. And once you are here, I want you to navigate to your folder where you are doing your code in. As you can see, I have navigated to the folder where I want to write my React project. So this is the folder path. Go to that folder. If you don't know how to open Visual Studio in that particular folder, here is what I will let you know. You go to, suppose I want to create a React app here. I'll go here, I'll write cmd, press enter. And if you have Visual Studio Code installed, just write code space dot and press enter. It will open up a fresh Visual Studio in this same repository. As you can see, there are a lot of projects which I am already doing, so that's why it opened a project which is in this repo. So I'll close this. This was just to let you know that how to open a project in a repository from File Explorer. But as you can see, I have written some commands here to navigate. Now once we are done with the folder path, we will try to create the app. To create a new app with Vite, you have to write npm create Vite at latest if you want to if you want the latest version. So we'll write here npm create Vite at 4.1.0. npm will ask us that do we want to install this package. We'll write yes. Why? So by default it is Vite project, but we'll make it React app, and then press enter. Which language do you want to use? With this arrow we can do Vue.js, which is another library, a very popular library. We can do vanilla or we can do React. We'll press enter. It asks us which language do you want to use. We want to use TypeScript. We press enter TypeScript. Now it says that go to this path and install all the dependencies, and then run the app. So we'll do cd React app npm install. This installs all the third-party libraries which are needed for us. It will take a little bit of time. As now it has been installed, we will try to run the app. We write npm run dev, and it will start up the app. I'll press Ctrl and click on this URL, or once it has been done, you can see it has opened up our counter app. See, this counter is working. On click, it is incrementing the count by 1. It says to us that you can edit this file and save to test the app. I want you to see how the folder structure is. As you might have seen that we were not able to see the folder structure for our React app. So what I did is, I was in a repo inside my terminal, but wasn't be able to see the Explorer terminal. So what I did is that I opened up my folder where my React project got installed in, and wrote cmd here and then pressed enter. Once you press enter, you will have a pop-up like this. You can write code space dot, as already I think you guys know by now. You have to write code space dot, and once you write code space dot and press enter, it opens up Visual Studio in that terminal, in both your File Explorer and PowerShell terminal. Now we'll go to creating a React component. We will go in the source folder and add a new file called message.tsx. So tsx means React components, and for normal TypeScript we can write .ts. So here we'll start writing our code. We will create a function based component because they are very popular and they're concise and easier to write. So we'll be using the same in this course. So here we declare a function called message. This convention of naming the function is called Pascal casing. You can see the function name starts with a capital letter. Here we should describe what the UI is going to look like when you render this component. So wherever you use the component, we want to render a h1 element with hello world. So what we'll write in here is return h1 hello world. So if you see here, you're writing JavaScript and HTML both, and HTML is inside JavaScript. This is called JavaScript XML, JSX, and under the hood it is going to compile to JavaScript. In the backend it is going to be like react.create element h1 of null. This is a very basic component. To use this we have to export it. Export default message. Now in our project we will go to our app component. We will be deleting everything in this file. You create a new component called app. It should have a div. It should have a div inside it. So now inside this we will be returning the message component which we just wrote. Before using anything, we have to import the dependencies. So for us, the dependency is the message.tsx file. So we will import it first. So here we write message. Now we can write here message and then after that we have to export default. So now once you have written export default app, it should export this app component to our main file. As you can see, app component is again referred here. In the same way we are referring the message component. So now if we run it, npm run dev, it should be able to render hello world for us. It's started. So we will open this URL, control click. It opens the URL. Here you can see it says hello world. Perfect. So now we have seen how components behave. This is a very simple example, and in the real world example, there could be a lot of behavior associated with the component. When the button got clicked, suppose there is a button, when the button got clicked, we have to do a lot of different things. So with JSX, we have ability to describe the UI and the code component both at the same place. So that's a very good plus one. So let's try declaring a constant and making this more dynamic. Const name is equal to Vikrant. Now, if we have ability to refer this variable inside our divs or any other functions we create here. So we'll write, in order to write that, we have to write double braces, and we'll write name. So we can also write some conditions on this, like if name return h1 name. If I save this, you can see that I can see name here. The reason being that I have not specified the braces. So we'll write braces here and we'll save. And if you can see, it's my name is coming here. And if name has value, then it will print this. If imagine, what if the name has null value? So we'll save it. You'll see what happens. It just prints hello. And as name is blank, as the name is blank, this if did not execute, anything inside the if does not execute, and whatever after it is getting executed. We get hello and then null. As it is null, we don't get any values here. Now we'll start building components now. So now you can see that we have built a very basic app which does basically nothing. Now we'll go to a section called building components. So now let's create a list group component. Before that, we will start with installation of Bootstrap. npm install strap. This basically is a styling module which lets you have pre-built buttons, UI for us. So that's why we are using it. So once we have done this installation, it's asking me for npm fund, so we'll fund it. So here in the source folder, we have a couple of CSS files. This component contains all the styles for our component. Anything in the app has this styling. We don't need it, we'll delete it. And in the index.css, we have global styling for our app. We don't need it because all of them will come from Bootstrap. So we'll delete this file entirely. In main.tsx, we have index.css styling has been imported. We'll import bootstrap / dist / css / bootstrap css, and let's see how the UI has changed. We will run our app now. So we'll write npm run dev. Now let's control click to see the difference between these two. You can see this file also loaded. So if you go back to the video, you'll see the difference. So what we'll do is we will create a components folder, and we'll create a file inside this called list group .tsx. Now inside this we'll declare a function called list group, and we'll return h1 element. return h1 tag list group, and we will export the same. Export default list group. So we don't need the message component now. We will import component slash list group and then write list group here. Now we will, once we have done the save, you can see it's become list group now. So let's start with design now. We will go to get bootstrap and get bootstrap.com and then read the docs. We'll go to list group, we'll search here list group. See list group, and to have a style we need like this, we have to use this markup. We need a UL with this class and with list item with these classes. We'll copy this code, and once we are in our component list group, we will directly paste it here. We will do this, we'll select this and do Control H and do replace all. See that our code is done. We will go, it's not formatted correctly, so we'll go to view and then we'll go to command palette and we'll search for format document. See, it says there are multiple formatters for TypeScript JSX files, so we'll click on configure. We'll select prettier as our default code formatter. Once we do save, now you can see this file is formatted. Now previously we didn't have a parenthesis here, but now when we saved with prettier, it automatically added this parenthesis. It is important to note that we have to have parentheses when we are adding multiple lines of JSX code. Now let's see. This has a very basic list and nothing is dynamic. So what we'll do is we'll make some changes to this. Now what if we want to add a heading here? If we want another element called h1, now we get a bunch of error. That reason being that in JSX React we can't return more than one element. In order to return this, we can do a quick fix, which will be like selecting the whole code, and we'll go to view, command palette, and we can use the shortcut, by the way. If you go to Control Shift P, so we will do Control Shift P, we'll specify, we'll write here wrap emit, and we'll click here and we'll write here div, press enter. The reason being that I selected it wrongly, so we'll paste it inside. We don't use this often, so we'll try to use fragment, which is used. Import fragment. We'll import fragment from React. Now once we have imported this, we'll again select everything. We'll press Ctrl Shift P. Now we'll replace the div with fragment and press enter. Now we have a fragment here. Now with this change, this component is rendered on the screen. We don't need an additional element like the div we needed. It makes the syntax shorter. Also, when you want a shortcut, we can do, before that we'll see the output that everything is working. We get the heading. Now there is another shortcut for this fragment. If you delete this and save, it still is rendered correctly. Reason being that empty greater than smaller than sign means that this is a fragment in React. Now we'll try to render this list. This list is kind of not very useful for us as everything is hard coded. What if we want to enter all of these elements dynamically? So we'll write a constant item, and we'll use the name of cities like Delhi, New York, Paris, Tokyo. We'll write an item which will be array. Now we'll make it, we don't want to use hard-coded value, so what we'll do is we'll try to map this item to render data dynamically. In JavaScript we can't use a for loop return element, so we have a function called map to convert each item to a different type. To convert this item of a different type, we'll write item dot map and tell it to convert this item of this type to different type. We'll make it list li, and then we will render the item itself inside this. And then once we save it, we'll cut it. As we already moved the code, we will put something inside here. We'll put a braces inside, and in JSX, see, this will give us an error as we can only render this. We have to wrap this expression in braces. Now save the changes, the code gets reformatted. Now if you go to the output, you'll see list Delhi, New York, and Tokyo. Now once we have written this code, we will add a little bit of styling to it by adding class name list group dash item, so that the style is intact. We'll cut it, we will paste it here. We get an error here because we have to wrap it in parenthesis. So we'll wrap it, remove this, and we'll save our code. You can see everything is now fine. We will see the output. As you can see, the output gives us exact styling and the list is now intact. Now I want to show you something. If I go to Control Shift I, this is our console. We have a warning saying that each child in a list should have a unique key prop. Let's go to our code. Here we are mapping each item to a list item. The warning says that every list item should have a key property, so that we can keep track of the items. When later you want to add more items or remove it, React knows which part of the code it has to update. So we have rendered it using a map. So we'll give each one a unique key. So as it is a unique string, we can put the item here. In the real world application, we could do the ID of the list if you are using API or something, or any unique number. You can do your own unique number generation, and you can map that again with each element or do a for item here. Sometimes we want to render items based on certain conditions. So like if item dot length is greater than 5, and you can return a paragraph. We'll write here greater than 5. So what we'll do is we will see here in the output nothing has happened, meaning that the element is not greater than 5, the count. So what we'll do is make it 3. Once we save it, you see greater than 5. We've lost our heading and the styling as well, heading also, so we'll put the heading here. Now if you refresh, oh by the way, we can't return them here like this, so we'll add a bracket here. As we know, put our h1 tag here and wrap everything in here, and this gets formatted, and you can see we have all of the things which you needed. I can see now that we have written some validation to put output based on certain conditions, there is another way for us to write this exact thing. That instead of doing this if loop here, we could put it inside the return statement itself. So let me just cut this, save. You can see now that it is rendered back to what it was. Now inside this we cannot write anything other than React components or HTML. So the only exception here is that we can write parentheses inside. So we'll be using parentheses. Inside parentheses we can write our JavaScript code. So we can write items dot length equal to, or let's do greater than 3, and put out here if this statement is true. This is called a ternary operator, by the way. Then we will, I think let's paste the code back here, and then if it is true, then we'll return this paragraph right away. I'm just cheating here. I don't want to write bunch of unnecessary code. Now once we have done that, we need to say what if it is false. We'll write on here null if this happens. Now if you see here, so I want to make it like if this is, so now we'll write what if there is, it is not greater than 3. In that case what should happen? I'll cut paste the logic of printing the list here and just save it, and then if you see it says it's greater than 5. I think I should write 3 here, sorry for that. So it is greater than 3 now, and if I want to make this the other condition work, we'll write greater than 5 here, and then you can see the list gets visible. So now we have learned about doing conditional calculation or doing conditional statements outside the return function, outside the return block or inside the return block. We can also do a very simple thing, that we can do a constant declaration and do message equal to, we can do message equal to exactly our code. So let me just cut this part and then return message directly and then save this. If we return back, you can see that the exact output is still there, and if we make it more than 3, you can see we get still the messages. Now we can also do a lot more with this. You can have now multiple message conditions, like if you have this message, right, and you want to do a message 2 and make this directly check condition, and then save this and return right here instead, again using operator, if message not equal to null, we'll write